Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Day. It is Wednesday, October 14th. We have a couple of meetings to share with you today. We have at 9:30 this morning, we have the GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee meeting. And again, I mentioned that was at 9:30 in the morning. Then we have the third Communications Committee meeting, which will be at 1:30 this afternoon. Now, of course, you can always follow along at lagunawoodsvillage.com/meetings. Now, on our show today, we have Kaiser Permanente, and they are here to talk to us about how important the flu vaccine is. And there's a big push to get that taken care of because it will help your immune system. So we'll be talking to them after the break. Then we also have Dave Min, who is a candidate for state Senate, and he's going to tell us all about himself and why he is the perfect candidate for that position. All right, let's go ahead and give you our reminders for COVID-19 like we normally do. We have covid19.ca.gov. That, of course, is where you can get the governor's reopening plans and any information regarding what he's doing. OCHealthInfo.com is where you can get all of the COVID numbers per city. And you can always contact our hotline, which is 714-834-2000. You could go to our website, which is LagunaWoodsVillageAlerts.com, and we try to keep that updated as much as possible as we receive local information. You could email us any comments or concerns at info@LagunaWoodsVillage.com. All right, let's take a look at our weather. Again, it is very hot. We do have heat advisories across the board all the way through Friday. So you definitely want to take that into consideration today when you're heading outside. 91.67 today, 95.66 tomorrow, 94.65 Friday, and then Saturday, very warm with a 90.61. But Sunday, we actually are going to have some cloud cover, and it is going to be much cooler. So we're looking forward to Sunday. Our sunrise this morning was at 6:55. And the sunset will be at 6:18. Patricia Bell, she visited the Beijing Zoo. So she went ahead and forwarded us this panda bear enjoying a nice meal. So thank you, Patricia, for sending that in. Now, if you would like to send in a photo, please email it to lagunawoodsvillagetv@gmail.com. When we return, we will have Kaiser Permanente. Stay tuned.
As a friendly reminder, cast your third mutual ballot by using a dark pen to fill in the oval. Place your ballot in the secret ballot envelope. Then, insert into the yellow postage-paid return envelope and seal. On the back of the yellow envelope, sign your name. Mail in plenty of time to arrive before November 2nd. Or hand deliver to the community center ballot box by November 2nd. This is an important election proposition. Please vote.
Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Moleji, who is here from Kaiser Permanente. Well, Doctor, so nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here to share some facts and figures about the seasonal influenza.
Yeah, well, we've all been talking a lot about it, and of course, we also have COVID-19 to worry about. So at least this is one thing we can take care of. So it's one less thing to worry about. So let's kind of jump right in. Now, when is the most appropriate time to get the flu shot? Should I start right now?
Yeah, now that it's October, it's definitely the right time. Most experts you see will suggest waiting until October to get it. That way, you still have coverage for the tail end of the flu season, which sometimes can leak into April or May sometimes. So at this point now, I'd say if you come anywhere near a flu shot and you haven't had it, get it now.
Yeah, it would seem that just about every place I go, they've got flu shots for free, or, do you want to get your flu shot now? So if you are a member of Kaiser Permanente, what are some things that they should be looking into to get that flu shot?
Great question. So pretty much all of our office buildings, whether you're coming in for an appointment for something entirely different, let's say you're coming in to see your dermatologist for your annual skin screening, or you have a follow-up with another doctor, all of our buildings carry the influenza vaccine. So whether you're coming in even for just a simple lab test or medication refill, you don't need appointments for it. We have usually a table with the nurse that their sole responsibility is to provide that flu shot. So all you need to show them is your Kaiser card and they'll take care of you.
Okay, excellent. Now, the vaccination is effective. I mean, it has been effective. However, there have been a lot of, I think, doubts as how effective it really is. Can you give us a kind of a background on that?
Of course, yeah, that's one of the biggest points of contention when patients are hesitant or not certain whether they want to get it because they've read something in the news about the vaccine's effectiveness was only 29% this year or 39%, and the thought is, well, shouldn't we have 100% effective vaccine before we distribute to the public? And what I'll say is, you can look at the data a lot of different ways, but the way that number is actually calculated is simply based on, they're looking back from the year when patients actually come in and get swabbed for influenza and it's detected on the swab. And then they say, well, did that patient get a shot or not? It has no, investigation into the severity of that patient's disease. A lot of young kids will just carry flu in their nose and they don't have symptoms, but they'll count against the effectiveness of it. What matters to us as clinicians, healthcare providers, is effectiveness in the way that we measure, does it prevent a person from coming to the hospital, getting really sick? And of course, the worst complication of flu being death. And we know from other data that the flu shot is highly effective at doing that. And that's really where we want patients to focus their attention on effectiveness, not just focusing on that one number, which is a very small segment of assessing effectiveness.
So let's take a look at the slide that we're showing now, impact. So of course, we have this discussion on a regular basis because of COVID-19, is that unfortunately, many, many people have died because of the COVID-19. And if we didn't have a vaccine at all for the flu, we would be looking at a lot higher numbers.
Absolutely. With influenza, a lot of times it doesn't get enough attention because we've dealt with it for so long. So it just kind of gets put into the background. But we've had influenza vaccines for decades, and that's reduced mortality significantly, reduced hospitalization significantly. Of course, we also have tried and true therapeutics for it also. So we see that influenza kind of takes a backseat to other infections in terms of the publicity behind it. But by and large, we know that our number one fight and tool against influenza every year is the shot.
Okay.
All the other treatments are supportive, but we know influenza vaccination can have a profound impact on reducing hospitalization and death.
Well, good point for sure. And then, let's talk about, the safety of the flu vaccine. I mean, I know some people say, well, if I get it, I'm going to get the flu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably the most common concern I've heard. I got that shot last year and I got the flu from it. So number one, you cannot get influenza from the vaccine. There is no active viral component in that shot. So I want to rest that or put that concern to rest. You cannot get the flu from the flu shot. Now, people say, but I felt a little bit down. I felt a little bit fatigued. And I say, well, that's just your immune system waking up to create antibodies and create protection. That's not you getting the flu. That's your immune system doing the job that it was designed to do. And you want it to do that against this vaccine as opposed to the real influenza, which can be a lot worse. So I tell people, you know what, I hear what you're saying. You had some effects. You had, a little bit of malaise, what we call that weakness feeling, a little bit of fatigue. Those are common side effects to any vaccine, but they're far better than getting the flu, which could have a whole host of other effects affecting your organs, sometimes even permanently.
Well, and especially now where we're still susceptible to COVID-19, especially the folks here that live in our village is, there are many that are 65 and over, and getting the flu shot would probably, would you agree, allow their immune system to help be healthy?
Absolutely. There's still so much ongoing research about how an influenza vaccine, even outside of influenza, may provide protection against other diseases because of what it does for your immune system. It wakes it up to know that something is around and it's prepped. Now, no one is going to claim that the influenza vaccine exactly prevents COVID, but we know that there have been cases of patients who have both influenza and coronavirus. And when you have two viral infections at once, if you've already got protection against one, you've already given your body a head start. And that's really where it's important. So if you're, gosh, that unlucky person who got exposed to both, then if you've had protection against one, you've already given your immune system the head start that it needs.
That's great. Now, when we look at the next one about fighting the flu, it looks very common. I mean, I think I've been looking at a chart like this for the last 6 months.
Yes, yes. Prior to COVID, these were things that we would talk about kind of on the wayside. Now we know that in daily life, masks are everywhere, and social distancing, washing your hands, the 20 to 30 seconds, warm water, soap, or alternatively, a hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. These are things that have just been ingrained into our mind. And it's good because we know those simple measures are the best way to prevent getting exposed to the virus. So that's one arm of prevention. The other arm is the vaccination. When you combine those two together, the good hygiene practices and a vaccine, you've put yourself in a really powerful position for prevention.
That's great. I mean, like you said, if we can do anything to help our bodies with the immune system to help fight it off, I mean, our chances are much better, like you said. Misconceptions. I guess there's still a few out there.
Oh yeah, yeah. There are. I think you already nailed one of them, which is I can get the flu from the flu shot. So that one hopefully is put to rest in your mind. But the other ones are that, I've heard everything from the gamut. They're injecting something into my body to watch me, or, that it doesn't work, or that someone's making money off of it. And I will tell you, like, no one is making money off of a flu shot. This is a public service initiative to keep not only yourself healthy, but your loved ones healthy. You're protecting the people around you as well, because there is a category of people who we call asymptomatic carriers. And you may have heard of this even with COVID. It exists with influenza too. And the vaccine is known to reduce the risk of that too. So even if you're that lucky person who doesn't get any symptoms, you could be passing it on to a dear loved one. So the flu shot helps prevent that as well. So you don't become a jumping point for this virus to infect someone you love and care about. So
you had mentioned earlier that some people carry the virus in their nose, but they never have any symptoms. So is that considered the asymptomatic?
Exactly. And to your point about that, when people come in here maybe for a little runny nose, sometimes at other urgent cares or hospitals, they'll just get swabbed on a routine and we detect the virus. And then they say, oh, the vaccine was ineffective because they were carrying it but didn't have symptoms. So that's, once again, on that effectiveness point, we always want to keep in mind the effectiveness really we measure more accurately when we talk about what's the end result to patients, what's the end result to our healthcare system. Are we actually taking care of patients for complications of this disease?
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and allowing us to share this valuable information.
All right. You have a good day.
You as well. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
All right. And we'll be right back after this.
Ernest Hemingway wrote The Old Man and the Sea at 52. Satchel Paige was still dominating batters at 59. Celia Cruz was still winning Grammys at 77. John Wheeler illuminated our ideas of the universe at 70. And Roger Crouch was 56 when he first went into space. Your best is yet to come.
Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Professor Min, who is the candidate for the California State Senate. Well, Professor Min, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I know it's difficult in this time of COVID.
Yes, well, we've been doing an awful lot of Zooms, as you can imagine. I'm sure you're doing the same thing. Being a professor, I'm sure you've been holding some classes online, correct?
I actually just taught yesterday. I'll teach tomorrow. So I'm teaching first year contracts law right now. And I know it's a challenge for all educators, including the teachers of my two school-age kids. Zoom is kind of the new way of doing things. Hopefully we'll get back on track soon. But I think for now, I know at least at UCI, where I teach, we're expecting to teach remotely through the spring semester.
Yes, yes, that's what I've been hearing. So, you know what? We've adapted well. I think everyone is getting used to it, even though we're not necessarily liking it. We're definitely getting used to it. So, well, you know what you mentioned? Well, we both mentioned that you're a professor. Tell me what you teach.
So I teach at the law school at UC Irvine. I teach contracts law, banking law, business law classes, basically.
Okay. All right. And how long have you been a teacher?
So we came here in 2012. So I've been teaching here at UCI since then. But before that time, I had a background in public policy. So I'd worked on Capitol Hill as a senior policy advisor, and then at a think tank as a policy director. And my research areas or policy interests revolve around economics and financial regulation and housing.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, that's most likely a perfect background for what you're about to embark on.
Well, we've got a lot of challenges, but I know that getting our economy back on track, affordable housing, these are the types of challenges that are important ones we're facing in the state and in this community.
Okay. And then just real quick, so your wife is also a colleague at UCI, and what does she teach?
So my wife, Jane, runs our domestic violence clinic at UC Irvine. She teaches family law, and she runs something called the Initiative to End Family Violence at UCI. So she's actually been an academic her whole career. I took 10 years to work on public policy, as I mentioned, but she's a leading expert in her field. I'm really proud to be married to her. She is working on important issues around family safety, around women's safety and women's rights, and I think her work is really coming to the fore right now. But of course, the cliche goes, we met in law school.
I love it. I love it. All right. So let's talk about the real reason why you're here with us today. So, running for office is not an easy thing. And so how did you arrive at that point where you said, you know what, I need to do this?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question. My background's in public policy. Until a few years ago, I'd never, in fact, if you'd asked me, I really didn't want to run for office because anyone who's run for a big seat like this one knows that raising money is a big part of this. And, I was terrible as a kid at like selling magazines or selling anything. And asking people for money was like the last thing I wanted to do. But I think we're in perilous times right now. And, we're at a point where we're at a true crossroads for our country's future. And a lot of people right now are focused for natural reasons on the White House and the U.S. Senate. If you're on Twitter or looking at the news, it's almost impossible to ignore the Joe Biden versus Donald Trump race. And these are important races, obviously, critical for our country's future. But I think we also have to look at the longer term picture. Our economy right now no longer works for too many people. For me, as the son of immigrants, I'm Korean American. My parents came here in 1971 in pursuit of that American dream. I am concerned that too many people no longer believe that economic opportunity or mobility exists anymore. We have to get things back on track. So there is a saying from the ancient Greeks that I quote a lot because it really is the mantra of my campaign. But a civilization is great when its elders plant trees whose shade they know they will never sit in. And for me, that was the ethos that defined this country, that made it the greatest economic superpower in world history. But really over the last few decades, we've gotten away from that. We stopped investing in long-term priorities, whether that's infrastructure, healthcare, education, combating climate change, or otherwise. We have to get back to thinking long run if we want to restore for our kids and grandkids and beyond that bright future that we all got to grow up with in this country. And I think California, as the 5th largest economy in the world, really has a unique responsibility to try to lead right now. Anyone who studies the history of this country's politics knows that Congress has always followed the successful lead of the states when it comes to big policy changes. This was true of Obamacare recently, which was based on Romney Care in Massachusetts. This was true of like the Interstate Highway Act or the New Deal. And so we call the states the laboratories of experimentation. If we're going to get back on track and steer this country in the right direction again, we have to start here in California.
So let's just go back to some of the things that you just mentioned, affordable housing or maybe a few things that are coming down the pike. So our community is 55 and over, and I'm sure
Mhm.
there's many things that they're concerned about. So what are some things that you could help them understand, going forward?
Yeah, well, let me start with what the California legislature does, because to be honest, not everyone knows that. Um, and so the answer lies in the 10th Amendment. So if you remember back to like Schoolhouse Rock back in the 60s and 70s, this is just about the Constitution. But the 10th Amendment under our federalist system of government basically says that the states can do anything as long as it's not preempted. That is to say, the federal government takes sole jurisdiction over it and is permitted by the Constitution. And so on education, on housing, on public safety, we have primary jurisdiction on a lot of other issues like environment or internet privacy. California has taken the lead, even though the federal government also has a significant role there. So in our state right now, I think our challenge is right now to get through COVID, to try to address the public health aspects of this, keep people safe. And then moving forward, we have a challenge of weathering through the economic downturn that we're facing right now, which is the worst in our lifetimes. And many people believe that on a sheer impact basis, this is the worst downturn we've ever had in this country's history. We've got to weather that storm over the next 2 years. Our budget is going to be impacted. We have to muddle through and hopefully come out of the other side stronger. Our economic foundation here in California is very strong, but we have to make sure that we don't make bad decisions in the near term. As far as the citizens of Laguna Woods, of course, housing and homelessness are issues that the state deals with. Public safety is an issue we deal with. And then things, like safety standards in nursing homes, around certain healthcare access issues. The state plays a massive role. So really, the state impacts on a huge amount of the activities that the residents of Laguna Woods deal with on a daily basis. And you don't always see that impact, but it is there.
Okay, thank you. And then, John Morlock is the incumbent. And why do you think you would be a better person for that position?
Sure, there's a lot of reasons. And let's start with some of the differences between us. First, I think Senator Morlock has been in elected office of one form or another for almost 30 years at this point. I think that's what you'd call a career politician. And yet when you look at his record, it's not a particularly strong one of accomplishment. And that's because he's tended to play this role in his career of being the iconoclast who just says no, no, no to everything. That is good for grandstanding. It's not good for getting things done. So when you look, for example, at Orange County, we get 6 cents back for every tax dollar that you and I pay. That is one of the worst ratios in the state. And it's because you have people like Senator Morlock who refuse to work with the other side, who take very extreme positions on issues like women's rights, where he's voted, I believe he has an F rating from Planned Parenthood. He's voted, I believe, something like 100% of the time against things like equal pay or women's safety in the community. He has he has an A rating from the NRA and an F rating from groups like the Brady Campaign and Moms Demand Action. He's a climate change denier. He's an anti-vaxxer, very anti-science. And I bring some stark contrasts. I'm a policy person. I believe very much in deferring to expertise in science, whether that's dealing with COVID, whether that's vaccinations, whether that's how we deal with climate change. I think it's going to be science and expertise that are a big part of how we get through this crisis and get California on track.
All right, well, thank you. And then just in closing, maybe take 30 seconds to wrap up and let our residents know all about it.
Fantastic. Look, my name's Dave Manigan. I'm running for state senate, and I'm running because we need to turn this around. We need to make our future for the next generation better than what we got to grow up with, and we are going in the wrong direction right now. I want to bring a long-termist, science-based approach to this seat. I want to work to bring back dollars to Laguna Woods and the rest of Orange County in a way that we've never seen before because we've lacked true representation. And I want to make sure that I'm accessible to you all. And you have my commitment that I will always be open, transparent, and accessible, even if you may not agree with me on everything. One of the things I want to emphasize is that before COVID hit, a lot of Laguna Woods residents know that I was out in the community almost nonstop, that I've gotten to know many Laguna Woods residents. And it's a really special place that I think needs good representation in the state legislature. I'm committed, once COVID ends, to being out in Laguna Woods and the rest of the district as much as possible for town halls, coffees, and other events where folks can get to know me and express their views. I understand that my role, should I win this seat and have the honor to represent you all, is that I have to represent you. And I can't do that if I'm not talking to you and communicating with you and hearing you. And I think that, again, is a huge difference between the representation we've had and what I hope to bring to the table, because I suspect most of your residents have never met the incumbent. I've never had a chance to express their views to the incumbent. And I want to bring true representation back to Laguna Woods and the rest of Senate District 37. So I hope to earn your vote. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Good luck to you.
Hey, thank you very much as well.
You're welcome. And we'll be right back after this.
Get your vote by mail ballot?
You can stay healthy and fill it out from the safety of home.
Or you can fill it out anywhere.
It's easy to mail back. You don't even need a stamp.
Or you could use an official drop box.
You can even drop it off at the polls.
Then track it to confirm your county got it. See, they got it.
Mail ballots are the simple, safe, and secure way to ensure that your vote is counted.
Quick announcements. I just wanted to remind you that tomorrow is the Great California's Shakeout drill. Now, we haven't had an earthquake in a while, but they want you to drop, cover, and hold for 1 minute tomorrow at 10:15 in the morning, just to remind ourselves what we're supposed to do in case of an earthquake. And then another quick thing, electric utility subsidy program is happening right now, but the deadline to apply is October 21st. If you are interested, you need to go to cityoflagunawoods.org/COVID-19 funding. Now, as we mentioned, the weather is very, very hot this week, so we leave you with these very hot temperatures. However, Sunday we are looking for a nice cooling trend. So have a great day in the village. We'll see you again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bye-bye.
People with hearing loss only know the way they hear, not how much better they should be hearing. How well are you hearing? Are you understanding 60% or maybe only 30%? You don't know unless someone measures your hearing understanding ability. People are wearing hearing aids that are underfit with power, not programmed properly, the physical fit is too loose or too tight. Find out what your understanding score is with a special word test from Advanced Ear Care. Stop in today and tell them Stuart sent you.
Now there's a different way to buy a new Lexus. It's called CarDash, only available at southcountylexus.com. It's amazingly simple. Visit southcountylexus.com, select and reserve your new or pre-owned vehicle that comes with a 5-day love it or leave it guarantee. Apply for credit, calculate your payment, and even appraise your trade-in, all online. Once you arrive at the dealership, just pick up your car and drive home. Push a button, get a Lexus. South County Lexus, where different is amazing.